Why John Piaget conducted his theory. With his works with Binet's intelligence test led Piaget to conclude that children think differently than adults. While this is a widely accepted notion today, it was considered revolutionary at the time. It was this observation that inspired his interest in understanding how knowledge grows throughout childhood. For 6 years, John Piaget conducted research on cognitive development. This research involved observing small numbers of individuals as they responded to cognitive tasks that he designed. These tasks were known as Piagetian tasks. Piagetian task is a task that evaluates the mental skills of an infant, kids, or adolescents. Piaget called his general theoretical framework genetic epistemology because he was inspired in how knowledge developed in human organisms. Piaget is initially into biology and also had a background with philosophy. From this, both disciplines influenced his theory and research on child's development. Out of his researches, Piaget came up the stages of cognitive development. Piaget studied children throughout their teens in an effort to determine how they developed logical thinking. He attempted to document the stages of cognitive development by observing the memory processes of children. Especially, Piaget believed that humans create their own understanding to the world. Piaget examined the implications of his theory not only to the aspects of cognition, but also to intelligence and moral development. His theory has been applied widely to teaching and to the curriculum designed especially in the preschool and elementary curriculum. Good day, I am Gabrielico A. Patibot from Group 2, and today we're going to discuss Jean Piaget's stages of cognitive development. The objectives or the learning outcomes of this topic are the students will be able to describe Piaget's stages in their own words, conduct a simple Piagetian task interview with children, and lastly, match learning activities to the learner's cognitive stages. There are four basic concepts of cognitive, and these are schema, assimilation, accommodation, and lastly, equilibration. If we say schema, Piaget used the term schema to refer a cognitive structure by which an individual intellectually adapt to and organize their environment. It is an individual's way to understand or create meaning about a thing or experience. It is like the mind has its own filing cabinet and each drawer has folders that contains files of things he has had an experience with. For an instance, if a child sees a dog for the first time, he creates his own schema of what a dog is. It has 4 legs and tail. It barks, it's furry. The child puts this description of a dog on file on his mind. When he sees another similar dog, he pulls out the file, his schema of a dog in his mind, looks at the animal and says, 4 legs, tail, barks, furry, and that's a dog. And the child will say, that's a dog. Another basic cognitive concept, assimilation. This is a process of fitting a new experience into an existing or previously created cognitive structure or schema. If child sees another dog, this time a little smaller one, he would make sense of what he is seeing by adding this new information, a different looking dog into his schema of a dog. The third basic cognitive concept is accommodation. Accommodation is the process of creating new schema. If the same child sees another animal that looks a little bit like a dog, but somehow different he might try to fit into his schema of a dog and say, "Look, mommy, what a funny looking dog. Its bark, it's funny too." Then the mom explained, "That's not a funny dog looking dog, that's a goat." With mommy's further description, the child will now create a new schema, that of a goat. He now adds a new file in his filing cabinet. The last basic cognitive concept is equilibration. Piaget believed that people had natural need to understand how the world works and to find order, structure, and predictability in their life. Equilibration is achieving proper balance between assimilation and accommodation. When our experiences do not match our schemata, plural of schema, or cognitive structures, our experience cognitive disequilibration. This means there is a discrepancy between what is perceived and what is understood. We then exert effort through assimilation and accommodation to establish equilibration once more.
Good morning, everyone. Before we start, let me introduce myself first. I am Maria Fatima M. Rosalejas, and today we will be talking about the Piaget stages of cognitive development. So the first stage is the sensory motor stage. It is corresponds from birth to infancy. This is the stage when a child who is initially reflexive in grasping, sucking, and reaching becomes more organized in his movement and activity. So it begins at birth and lasts through the age of 2. During this period, your little one learns about world by using their senses to interact with their surroundings. The term sensory motor focuses on the prominence of the senses and muscles movement through which the infant comes to learn about himself and the world. Because child relies on seeing, touching, sucking, feeling, and using their senses to learn things about themselves and the environment. It is called sensory motor stage because the early manifestation of intelligence appear from sensory perception and motor activities. The next is the object permanence. It is ability of the child to know that an object still exists even when out of sight. This ability is attained to sensory motor stage. So it is to understand that items and people still exist even when you can't see or hear them. Around 10 months old, your baby will most likely have a full understanding of the concept of object permanence. For example, if you hide a toy underneath the blanket, he will know to pick up the blanket and look for the toy. And the best activities for baby during sensory motor stage is peek-a-boo, tactile plays, and moving toys.
The stage 2 of Piaget's stages of cognitive development is the pre-operational stage. This covers up the children from 2 to 7 years old. The children's intelligence here is natural. They are closer to use of symbols. Pre-operational stage means that before operation. This means that the child cannot perform, combine, or separate ideas. Pre-operational stage is highlighted by this following: symbolic function, egocentrism, and centration. First is symbolic function. It is an ability to represent objects and events. Drawing, written word, or a spoken word comes to be understood as representing a real object. For example, a 5-year-old boy who is pretending to be a ninja fighting to an opponent but actually is alone inside the room. Next is egocentrism, is a tendency of the child to only see his point of view and assume that everyone also has the same point of view. For example, upon seeing the child's sisters crying, a young child gives her sister her favorite stuffed toy to make her feel better. Next is centration. It refers to the tendency of a child to only focus on one aspect of a thing or an event. For example, you show him a glass with water. The child will only focus on the height of the glass. He only describes the height of the glass but doesn't rely to different aspects of it. So that shows the centration.
Irreversibility. It is a stage in early child development in which a child falsely believes that actions cannot be reversed or undone. For example, if a 3-year-old boy sees someone flatten a ball in playing a dough, he will not understand that the dough can easily be reformed into a ball. Next is animism. It is the belief that inanimate objects are capable of actions and have lifelike qualities. An example could be a child believing that the sidewalk was mad and made them fall down, or the stars twinkle in the sky because they are happy. Next is transductive reasoning. Precausal thinking is categorized by transductive reasoning. For example, a child might say that it is windy outside because someone is blowing very hard, or the clouds are white because someone painted them that color.
Stage 3. Concrete operational stage. This stage is characterized by the ability of the child to think logically but only in terms of concrete objects. This covers approximately the ages between 8 to 11 years old, or the elementary school years. The concrete operational stage is marked by the following. Decentering. This refers to the ability of the child to perceive the different features of objects and situations. No longer is the child to be more logical when dealing with concrete objects and situations. For example, when asked to choose between 2 lollipops, a child might choose based on how one flavor is better than the other, even though the other is the same size and color. Second is reversibility. During the stage of concrete operation, the child can now follow certain operations and can be done in reverse. For example, they can already comprehend the commutative property of addition, and the subtraction is the reverse of addition. They can also understand that a ball of clay shaped into a dinosaur can again be rolled back into a ball of clay.
Conservation. This is the ability to know that certain properties of objects like numbers, mass, volume, or are do not change in appearance because of the development of the child's ability of decentering and also reversibility. The concrete operational child can now judge rightly that the amount of water in a taller but narrower container is still the same as when the water was in the shorter but wider glass. Serration. This refers to the ability to order or arrange things in a series based on one dimension, such as weight, volume, or size.
The formal operational stage is the last stage of Piaget's cognitive developmental theory. It starts from around 12 years of age and lasts up to adolescence. It is called formal operations because the children can now operate or think about various representations or forms. For example, the abstract and hypothetical thinking of the child develops at this age. The improved hypothetical thinking helps them understand the experiments and concepts related to science and mathematics. Children at this age start thinking about various philosophical, moral, social, and ethical concepts that requires abstract reasoning. That is why the goal of this stage is abstract reasoning. And furthermore, let's discuss some important qualities that develop in child during this stage. So one of the qualities is hypothetical reasoning. During this period, the development of deductive logic is observed in the children. Deductive logic involves deducing a specific conclusion from a hypothesis or a generalized principle. Let's understand it with an argument. So for example, this one. All gray-haired men are professors. Harry is a gray-haired man. Therefore, Harry is a professor. The deductive conclusion will be logical and true if the statements are true.
Reasoning was still immature, as children were only able to learn lessons successively about their lower order relation. The ability to reason about similarities between this lower order relation appeared only to develop in adolescence. Deductive reasoning was essential at this stage of intellectual development. At this point, teens become capable of thinking about abstract and hypothetical ideas.